right, welcome back to One True Podcast. With me, as usual, is Zach Smith, beat writer for the Great Trib for the Baylor Bears. Zach, how are you?
Great day. It's it's a lovely day. I'm excited to get on the road to Kansas here pretty soon. So yeah.
Yeah, look like you got your ears lowered, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit. I it wasn't quite as long as I had my COVID hair, but yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. And then we got John Werner. John, of course, is no stranger to anyone. Longtime beat writer for the Trib, retired this summer, but still hanging around, still doing stories for us, and covered last week's game for the AP. Johnny, how are you?
Brice, you really emphasized that long, like you really stretched that out.
Own it, buddy. Lean into it.
It's a term of respect. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're pleased.
I appreciate it.
We're also pleased to be joined by Tim Everson of the Manhattan Mercury. Tim covers K-State, who, of course, Baylor will be playing this week. He's been on the K-State beat for the last couple of years, but like many of us, has covered a lot of things over the years, including high school sports, which we still do ourselves. I mean, it's, it's the way of the world. But Tim, thanks for hopping on and talking some football.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, guys, so to me, Saturday's matchup in Manhattan feels about as stark as any contrast we've had this year, maybe the Texas game for Baylor. So despite its road loss in Austin, Kansas State is in the midst of a very solid season. Wildcats are 6-3 overall, defending Big 12 champions, and they still have a path to get back to Arlington, back to Jerry World, but they will need some help along the way. Win out and have some other teams lose. But as for Baylor, well, it's definitely not going to Jerry World. The Bears will not be competing for a Big 12 title. And they have a decidedly uphill climb even to get to 6 wins and bowl eligibility. I know weird things happen in college football, but where would a Baylor upset rank on the weirdo meter for 2023? Zach, take us away.
Yeah, I think it'd be supremely weird. I know I just look at Kansas State and they're so well coached and just kind of that fundamental football team that, we all love, right? I know Baylor has had its struggles against running quarterbacks, and last week against Houston, Donovan Smith had his, kind of led the way for Houston and led them in rushing yards. And, running backs aside for Kansas State, whether you're looking at Will Howard or Avery Johnson, both of them have ability to kind of beat you with your legs. So I think Kansas State has a big advantage in that department, and something Baylor has not proven to be able to stop. And so an upset for me would be very weird, right? So
yeah, monumental would be. Tim, I mean, I assume you guys are expecting, the Wildcats to roll in this one and go right into that Kansas matchup next week.
Absolutely. I think that K-State going into Texas was one of the best rushing teams in the country. They're still up there. They're not as far up there as they were. Texas kind of got them slowed down a little bit. I don't think that Baylor has the caliber of defensive line that Texas trots out there, and I think that they're looking forward to kind of getting back to pounding the ball and really having some nice long prolonged drives and just kind of wearing defenses out. So I'm expecting that on Saturday.
Yeah, Johnny, you've seen a lot of weird things over the years, but I mean, how would a Baylor win over K-State? Where would that rank?
Brice, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. I agree. I had to throw it out there.
Right. I mean, this is just a terrible matchup for Baylor on the road against a really physical team. You remember last year, Brice, Baylor was playing really well. They just had road wins over Tech and Oklahoma, and we thought, wow, I mean, they could get back to the Big 12 championship game. Well, K-State just rolled them. they came out playing really rough physical football. And that was at McLean Stadium. And I mean, Baylor wasn't even really in the game. And that's what that game kind of started, the downhill slide for the Baylor football program. They just haven't really.
So blame the Wildcats. Blame Chris Kleiman. All you Baylor fans, get off Dave Aranda's case. Blame Chris Kleiman.
Right. Yeah, I just don't think they've played a really well. They've played, they've got a couple road wins this year, but this I don't think they're going to stay unbeaten on the road.
No, I agree. Obviously, they are 2-0 on the road, which is probably got to be the fewest road games of probably any team in the Big 12. But Cincy, UCF, I mean, those are different teams than Kansas State. I mean, let's just face it. So, and we've sat here, we've talked about how physical K-State is and how, fundamentally sound they are, which I feel like, it almost feels like an oversimplification. Tim, I want to kind of get your take on this as someone who sees this team on the regular. What makes this team, so tough?
I mean, that is part of it. It is they're very well coached. They're very disciplined. They pride themselves in kind of having that kind of don't get too far up, don't get too far down, stay kind of focused on things mentality. But really, I mean, it's they pride themselves on being physical. They don't make a whole lot of mistakes. They got a bunch of veteran talent. The offensive line is all back from last year. Running backs they have running backs back from last year, aside from obviously D. Smallin, who was with the Cowboys. Well, Howard is back from last year. On the defensive side, you got a whole bunch of faces that were on that Big 12 championship team. They had to rebuild the secondary a little bit, and so that has been a little bit of a work in progress. But even now, over the last several weeks, after they've kind of moved some pieces around, that has started to kind of get to the point of what K-State fans kind of expect from a Chris Kleiman secondary. So they're just really, they're really well built all the way around, and it's taken. Their 3 losses. It's taken a 61-yard field goal on the road at Missouri, top 20 team.
Mm-hmm.
They played very poorly against an Oklahoma State team that kind of just realized that they are
pretty good.
Yeah. In Stillwater, they pretty much sparked the Cowboys' rise, and now they're very well are on their way to a Big 12 title game appearance. And then last week against Texas, who very well could be a top 5 team in the country. So while the 3 losses have been disappointing, they still are give this team a different schedule. Who knows? They could be undefeated right now. So I mean, they're just very solid, and it's been impressive to watch while still incredibly frustrating. Just the 3-1 score losses, because it's just almost there, almost there from having just another kind of all-time season for the program.
Wow. Yeah. Good point. I feel like, so we've talked a lot on here before about how we thought Joey McGuire was kind of the perfect fit at Texas Tech. I feel like, if you go back a little bit more, I mean, Chris Kleiman at K-State, he just seems to fit that, good, disciplined, rugged football that, that they like in Manhattan and obviously like a lot of places, but I mean, that Bill Snyder was famous for. So yeah, it's going well for the Wildcats. They
found it real quick.
Go ahead.
They found a perfect kind of melding of that, not flashy, workmanlike, blue collar type coach, but someone who isn't as afraid of change as Bill Snyder was, especially at the end, which really started to hold him back. And you got to give Gene Taylor credit, the athletic director, because he did kind of find the perfect guy. Neil Brown was the other kind of last candidate, and with Kleiman, and it really has shown that it was the right pick. He's been phenomenal.
Yeah, I feel like like I said, Will Howard, those guys are going to have probably a field day against Baylor on Saturday. It's just, I mean, it would be stunning if Baylor, I think, even made it a game, but that's kind of the way this season has gone for the Bears. I want to go down to Austin. We, of course, were watching that Baylor or that K-State Texas game in the press box last week. Tim obviously had a much different view, but let's talk about the Longhorns real quick. Quinn Ewers this week has been upgraded from questionable to day-to-day. Presumably, he could be back on the field when the Longhorns face TCU on Saturday. I haven't seen an update since I came up with this question. But how much of a difference can Ewers make for this UT team down the stretch? Zach, you've been
right.
ringing that bell for the Longhorns. What do you say?
Yeah, give me some burnt orange. Give me a burnt orange jersey. I mean, obviously, I think he is a game changer. I don't think they can compete for the Big 12 or a college football playoff spot without him. I think he is kind of that X factor that takes the Longhorns from a really, really, really good team to a national power. That being said, this week against TCU, I kind of would be surprised if we saw him. If I told you at the beginning of the season that next week's game at Iowa State would be more difficult than this week's game against TCU, that would, I think, be surprising. But like I said, I think he is the guy that takes them to the next level. So, but yeah, I don't think we'll see him this week, and I still think the Longhorns are going to win, but going forward, he's the key to them making a national title run.
Yeah, Tim, you obviously saw the Longhorns up close last week. What's kind of your take?
I like Malik Murphy a lot. I think that there is a great deal of potential, but you could see last week, once K-State kind of got themselves into a formation where they had a point man deep to kind of keep the long bombs at bay, which kind of got K-State in trouble early in the game and kind of got them behind the 8-ball. And then once they started to pressure Murphy just a little bit, his accuracy is not up to snuff. I think that if Ewers would have been in that game last week, K-State wouldn't have been able to make the comeback that they did, because that hole would have been much deeper. I think we're probably looking at like a 28 point hole by halftime, opposed to just the 10 points that they were in. He is special, and I think even just for the experience, take away the fact that he is one of the more gifted passers in the country, just the experience that he has, just the extra year. That Texas team is so talented that you just give someone that has kind of been around the block for just a little bit, it kind of raises them to that next level.
Yeah. John, I mean, we saw Texas kind of after Colt McCoy really start to sort of decline in its level of quarterback. And, and then they got Ellinger, and he was, Ellinger was pretty good, but, I think Ewers is a step up from him, right?
Yeah, last year, when we saw him, I wasn't that impressed. But man, he's gotten a lot better this year. And, they've really leaned on him to be a leader on this team. He's been very accurate, doesn't throw many interceptions. I think they could, especially if he comes back, I think they'll win their last 3 games. It's not that tough of a schedule left for them. TCU, Iowa State, and Texas Tech. But yeah, I think they're going to make the Big 12 championship game, and I think he's going to be a key.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I think he has certainly elevated his level of play in a major way. And they need. I'm with you, Zach. They need him back if they want serious CFP aspirations. He needs to be there. So. So I was going from memory on this. Tim, Kansas is the sunflower state, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. I got my nicknames right there. So with this, with us sitting here talking about, Baylor, K-State this week, I felt like it was appropriate. We, teams can't look ahead. We can here on the pod. But let's look ahead to next week's Kansas K-State game in Lawrence. So assuming K-State takes care of Baylor, which we've all said that should happen. And then the Jayhawks handle what I would say is a mediocre Texas Tech team. Just how big will this game be, and where will it rank kind of in the history of that rivalry? Tim, you've seen that rivalry up close. What do you say?
Mm-hmm. It's going to be huge. I mean, especially from the Kansas side, from the KU side, it's going to be massive. It should be if both teams win. I don't know about the AP, but at least in the college football playoff rankings, it will be the first time both teams play each other ranked. The last time that they played each other both ranked in any poll, I believe was 1995. And I think that's the only time, or maybe one of two times in the series history that has happened. There may have been one time in like the 70s where they were both ranked. And I got to go back and look at that before I start writing stuff up for next week. But it's massive. I mean, K-State's won 15 straight. KU's been so bad for so long. They finally have something going. Leipold has done wonders for this team. It's in the past when KU has had a pulse over the last 25 years or whatever, and the coach at K-State hasn't been Ron Prince. K-State has handled KU fairly handily in that 95 game. They won like 56-7 or something like that. I mean, K-State ran over them, even though KU was ranked. I don't expect that to happen. I think this is a much better KU team. I think that they got talent everywhere. Their defense is so improved from what they were. That was kind of obviously their bugaboo last year, was they, were very flashy on offense, but they just could not stop anyone defensively. They've gotten that figured out. Even if they don't have Jalen Daniels, which that's up in the air, we don't even know if we're going to see him for the rest of the year, or if he's going to try to redshirt, because I don't even think he's played 4 games this season. Jason Bean has shown that he is very dangerous. He's fast. He's tough to stop. They got receiving threats everywhere. K-State fans are, they probably don't want to admit it, but they're looking at this game like this is as scary as this rivalry has been in quite some time, since probably 2007, the Orange Bowl year for them. Yeah. So it's it'll be exciting. It'll be a fun atmosphere in Lawrence. That's the other kind of big part of it. It is in Lawrence. It's not in Manhattan. I think K-State fans probably feel a little better if it was at home. I don't think that K-State fans will have the opportunity to fill David Booth Memorial Stadium with as many K-State fans as they normally do in past years. I think that those tickets are going to get bought up by KU fans. Basketball season isn't in full swing yet, so there's still more than enough KU fans that care about football, at least enough for the next month or so to show up. It'll be interesting. It's exciting it's exciting that it matters. And I think all K-State fans would admit that, even if they're not super excited about that fact.
Yeah, I would say the winner would probably still have a pretty good fighting chance at a Big 12 title game appearance.
Yeah,
whereas
especially KU after beating Oklahoma. I mean, that's K-State still has, they've tiebreaker lost to Oklahoma State and Texas. KU kind of has an open path to Arlington if a couple things happen. K-State definitely needs more to go their way to get back there.
Yeah. John, you've been to Lawrence a bunch, as Tim said, where fans had kind of checked out to basketball season already. There were plenty of good seats available. there shouldn't be for that game, as Tim said, right?
Well, I do remember one time, the night before the Baylor-Kansas game in Lawrence, they had Midnight Madness for basketball, and it was an 11 a.m. kickoff. And there might have been a couple thousand people who actually woke up and came to the game. But yeah, that atmosphere is, they've been bad for so long. That atmosphere is usually just kind of dead around there for football. But yeah, it's great to see that, they've made this kind of revival and can actually compete against K-State. But we'll see. I would probably still pick K-State in that game, but it's good to see, they both have good teams.
Zach, I mean, did you have this one circled on your calendar at the start of the year?
I mean, I think I have it circled on my calendar as soon as Mel Tucker got fired. I think Michigan State administration is looking at judging both of the coaches in that game. This wouldn't be a One True podcast if I didn't bring up Michigan State at least once, right?
Fair enough.
So no, but I agree with everybody. It's these in-state rivalry games just mean so much, and it's what makes college football so cool. So yeah, I'm absolutely looking forward to that just watching it from a fan perspective.
Yeah, it was really cool to see when the Big 12 released its schedule matrix, which is fun to say, the matrix, that there were 4 protected rivalries. And of course, Baylor TCU is one. I mean, that's a given. Those two hate each other.
Rivalry.
Yeah, the Revivalry, which is a dumb name, but nevertheless, it's a good rivalry.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. So then you got BYU Utah, which obviously makes a lot of sense. Arizona State, and then of course Kansas and K-State. And as Tim said, and I hate to even bring this up because this is stinging my heart right now, but I wrote a column a few weeks back. I wrote a couple of columns about the Astros and Rangers and talked about how when one's been up, the other's been down, and vice versa. And now we have a rivalry. Now we have a rivalry because they're both good. And and then if they meet in the playoffs, oh my gosh, that'll take it to another level. Well, guess what? They met in the playoffs, and that sucked. As an Astros fan, that sucked. But John's loving it. He's a Rangers fan, but at any rate, I think it's cool that Kansas and Kansas State are good. I mentioned, how Chris Kleiman seems like a perfect fit in Manhattan. I know Lance Leipold's name comes up in like every coaching search article out there, but man, if Kansas can keep that guy, how huge would that be? Because to me, I did sort of look at Kansas last year as potentially a blip on the radar, and then he comes back this year and they're playing well again. And so I think you got to give him a ton of credit for getting this thing going in the right direction. So yeah, that one's going to be a lot of fun. Do we know, Tim, what time that one has? Have they set the game time on that one?
Not yet. I think that'll be.
It feels like a good night
Sunday.
Game. Yeah, it feels like a good night game if they want to go that route. I mean, that could be prime time.
It'll be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Zach, I'll let you take it away with your self-serving polling here.
I'm flying into Kansas City on Friday night or Friday morning.
Cool.
And I have all day in Kansas City on Friday, and then I'm driving back and forth from Manhattan on Saturday and an early flight on Sunday. So I've got one meal in Kansas City. I have never been there, right? Where do I go? And then also in Manhattan, if there's any hole in the wall college bars, any recommendations, food recommendations?
We'll
I
start
wouldn't be a sports
Tim,
writer.
who, obviously been in Kansas a long time. I would like to see if his answer would be the same as John and I, who have been to KC a bunch of times. But Tim, what do you say?
Well, obviously there's a plethora of great barbecue to pick from, and so that's probably what I'm going to go with. I will give you what I think is like the standard first time gotta try this, and then I'll give you a deep cut. just in
Nice.
case that one doesn't
Nice.
work out. So the standard, I think you got to do Joe's KC.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Olathe. You got to go to the original
Mm-hmm.
gas station location. You got to get your burn-ins. You got to get the fries. Got to get a Z-Man sandwich. Fantastic.
Mm.
Just classic. You ask any person within 3 or 4 hours of Kansas City that goes there regularly, you're going to get 25 different places. A deep cut for you is a new-ish place. It was a food truck for a while. It's called Wolfpack Barbecue. It's just north of downtown. Super cool sit down place. Super delicious. A friend of mine is the pit master there, and so
Nice.
Well,
I got to try. I tried them back when they were a food truck, and it was delicious. And then during the bye week, I went up to Kansas City for the weekend, and finally got to try their actual sit down location. And super good food. Kind of up and coming neighborhood. It's right. It's not too far from where the Kansas City pro women's soccer team is building their stadium, which is going to be the first stadium dedicated to a professional women's team in the country. And so it's a cool spot. So that's my two Kansas City things. If I could give you 12 more, but that's
absolutely.
my two.
And Zach's a soccer guy,
I'm
so
a
that's
huge
probably
soccer-
right up his alley.
Speaking my language.
All right, John, tell him where our first stop in KC always is. And by the way, we love Joe's, and that would always be our second stop. But we made it to Joe's when we were up there for basketball tournament. But where was our first stop, Johnny?
Well, it's always Stroud's Chicken. It's
the best freaking fried chicken on the planet. I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, it's so good.
It's amazing. Yeah. Great mashed potatoes and gravy. And then they top it off with a cinnamon roll.
Oh, cinnamon roll as big as your face. Ugh.
Which even if you've already eaten 3 or 4 pieces of chicken, you've got to stuff it in your mouth because it's that good.
Yeah,
but
we usually come back with a bag of cinnamon rolls and then reheat them in our hotel microwave. Not quite as good, but still good.
Well, I usually try to bring some home, either, when Brice hasn't been there, I usually try to get one back for him.
Brought me back Stroud cinnamon rolls. They're usually hard as a rock by then.
Right. My wife, Karen, she really likes them too. But yeah, Stroud's is a must. And Joe's, just be prepared to stand in line if you're going to the one at the gas station. It could be a pretty good wait. But Zach, I got to ask you this. If you're getting there Friday morning, I would say that's 2 meals.
Easily.
I mean, all of this recommendation, I'm like, I've got breakfast, lunch, dinner, all planned.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Do they open before 7 a.m.? I might grab a cinnamon roll before I hop on the plane.
There you go. Oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah.
I got to tell a real quick story. John and I were up in KC one year for the basketball tournament, and I want to say we had gone to Joe's. We've been to a bunch of barbecue places up there.
Yeah, it was Joe's.
It was Joe's. Okay.
Uh-huh.
We had gone back to the hotel. We're sitting there, and I think a couple other media dudes had gone with us. And there was this guy. Was it David Wilkinson, John?
Yes.
Yeah, he was from the local NBC affiliate. He was a funny dude. And John is just sitting there, and he's leaned back, and he was just like stuffed and just sitting there kind of stretched out in this lobby of the hotel. And David Wilkinson looked over at him and goes, "Spring break 74, dude." And it was just so funny because that was probably when you were on spring break, John, right?
It was great comedic timing on that. Yeah, he nailed it. Yeah. The year,
you looked so content. You looked like you were on a beach somewhere full of Joe's barbecue.
Couldn't move very well after all that food.
All right. Well, I'm jealous that Zach and Tim, can obviously partake of some good barbecue. But y'all enjoy the game, however good or bad the game might be. And yeah,
Do you want me to give the Manhattan
yes,
recommendations
go.
also?
Please.
Give
Yeah,
us the
I can do
Manhattan.
that. The problem with Manhattan, as I'm sure that you guys experience with Waco, which is bigger than Manhattan, but still not super big, is that any of these places on game day get overrun. So
Right.
your luck getting into any of these, good, Lord be with you. But I would say Taco Lucha, So Long Saloon are two places in Aggieville, which is the bar district in Manhattan. Taco Lucha is what it sounds like. It's a little taqueria type place. Very good. So Long Saloon's burger place. I think my favorite restaurant in town. Delicious. In the morning before you head out or before you go to the game, Varsity Donuts is always gets brought up by people. A delicious donut place, also in Aggieville. There's a place called The Chef, which is a breakfast place, which I don't even know why I'm telling you, because there's no way that you're not waiting more than an hour to get into there. And let's see, I'll think of one more really, really good one here. There's a bunch of super good Mexican places. I'll also say like El Sol is actually quite good.
All
So
right.
yeah.
All right.
Good luck with any of those.
It always feels like a roll of the dice when you get Mexican north of the Red River, but
that is I should know better than recommending Mexican food.
John and I have had good Mexican food in Oklahoma before.
Yeah. Boilos.
So there you go. I don't know if y'all could hear it, but my stomach was legit growling.
Man, I'm gonna come back. Like, I'm gonna need an extra bag just for the takeout food I'm gonna bring home. Good Lord.
It's such a good food area. It really is. Tim, like I said, thanks for hopping on. Zach and John, always good to see you guys, but y'all enjoy the game. Appreciate y'all.
Will do.
All
Thank
right.
you guys.
See ya.
Nice to meet y'all.
Thanks,
You guys.